Eventful week, a week where things happened in this country. Visitors came. We have had the king, the queen. The Queen of Netherlands was also here. And many things in our, it is your biggest conversation. It is, let's be real. And of course, today we are with a new face, a beautiful lady, and your usual suspects. The noisiest one at the far end.
Hey, yes.
I'm your host, CEO Charles Otieno, alongside.
Wanja Minor.
What do you do, man?
Yes.
Oh,
What do you do?
How are you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I would describe myself as a very active citizen. I'm also the founder of a non-profit called Hummingbird Grassroots Center that empowers young people who are ordinarily quite underprivileged.
Yes.
And I'm a jovial Kenyan.
Yes.
Yes.
Very jovial.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to work with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You are a young Kenyan, you know.
Yes.
I am very young, yes. I am Maria as usual. Okay, I must hold this book, yes. The author of Marriage is a Scam, also the chief editor of The Young magazine, and the usual suspect on Let's Be Real Now. I'm humbled to be here again and happy to have this team. Very privileged. So
Thank you.
Yeah, and welcome back. Hey, guess who's back? Yes, indeed. I'm Simon Says. I'm indeed a content creator. I make content that makes you smile and think at the same time. And I'm also a podcast host. But most importantly, I help you make content that will actually get you business to whatever it is that you want. So talk to me. Simon Says is the name. And yes, let's be real. We're going to keep it real till
Let's
this
keep
week.
it real, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
The king has flown out of the country,
Finally.
and the queen.
Go.
Did you see the way we brought out our best side?
Yes.
We had an 8-course meal. I never knew that Kenyans can do an 8-course meal. 8-course.
Yeah.
Where? The
I'm
king is
telling you.
coming. You have to
King
put
is
your best
coming.
foot forward, but.
The food,
Uh-huh.
the outfits, and we were hail the king, hail the king. What is your take of all these tours? So,
The tour, first of all, it was, on our aspect as Kenyans, we put our best foot forward as usual. You
Yes.
know, even the governor of Nairobi saying, all of the hawkers, Toka. that was the thing, right?
Yeah.
But just like next 6, we were back.
Yeah.
See, that's how we even know. The whole idea is to make sure that we bring out the best. We know how to do that. We Kenyans know how to do that even from our home. We bring out that
Yes.
pretense and everything.
Yeah.
But then this tour, I sense even it came off even as almost an apology tour.
yes.
In a way that because he was even apologizing for past hostilities that even had happened from the colonizers even to us, even our leaders. But one thing even I even got to commend is that he recognized most of our heroes that even were even we even fought for even independence for even various sectors of our country. He recognized them. But there was also this guy, even I'm not even sure you guys were aware of this guy called Bolt, a presenter on Sky News. He said, now why is King going out there doing apology tours in Nini? One thing even I would say is this. When it comes to the aspect of recognizing what your country has done to others, is very important to recognize even the state that we're in even at this moment in time.
Yes.
You know, and now just because you gave us English or something, and then now you give us English and quote unquote independence, and not even independence, democracy, so to speak, as saying that we don't need to apologize for that. In the essence, you need to recognize that because of what you brought, you degraded a lot of other things that were currently going on, even us as individuals. But even like someone is saying that, yes, don't complain that I slapped you, I gave you food. She said, I gave you food. They could be taking that sort of thing. Amma, what were you think? Were you so happy? Like after he left, now are you feeling a sense of relief?
Okay, I don't feel a thing when he was here and when he was away. I just saw Kenyans welcoming someone. But I feel like, first of all, the fact that it looked like an apology tour does not change a thing, especially for people who were there during that time. You know, for us, some of us were not there during independence.
Yeah.
We just hear stories. But for those who were there, maybe they felt like, okay, you made us suffer, you've come to apologize. How many years later? Yeah, 60-something years later. So does it mean that Queen Elizabeth was late to do that? We don't know. She's not there. We can't ask. But I find it rude for someone to say that they brought us English. That is rude. Because English is also in United States. We could have learned it from... We are teaching our kids Chinese now, Japanese, French. They're learning it in schools. So the French people should come and tell us they gave us French. Right now, people are learning languages broadly. So this person saying that we were given democracy and language, they can come and take the language from our heads.
But here's the thing. I don't mind them saying that they brought us English because innately they kind of did. Because that's their language.
Yeah.
They brought, so they're admitting that the fact that they brought their language
Yeah.
to us.
So they diminished ours.
Just because you brought English does not mean you brought literacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
That's that. Now that's a separation.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
now.
Mwanja?
Well, speaking of English, it brings about the debate. Is English superior to Swahili? Is it superior to Kikuyu? Well, I would say because of its wide use, but my view is that African languages are not inferior to white people's and Western languages. That said, you know, the Brits and the way they colonized us properly, one of the characteristics of their colonization was how meticulous it was done. They have the records of everything. I'm sure right now, if they want to know which land was owned by who in 1925, they have those records. So it is so suspicious of them that they seem to have all the records, how they got some African people to go and fight in World War II, but suddenly they don't know where the remains of Dedan Kimathi are. They don't have some facts that are important to us, like how many people were actually killed during the state of emergency. So I noticed that the British media was doing a bit of spinning and a bit of whitewashing. For example, I saw in one of the media houses that only 10,000 Africans were killed, while we know that it is in hundreds of thousands. So even as they were quite polite in their choice of words, for example, we deeply regret. It's a sincere apology. But the people who were actually affected by the state of emergency, it should be remembered is actually majority of the people are people from Mount Kenya region being concentrated in camps, being killed. People are asking for reparation. These are people who lost actually their identity. There are people who cannot trace their grandfathers and their grandmothers. So I noticed that even as there was the nice 8-course dinners and the bow ties, even as the politics came in when we saw Baba in State House, and the Baba supporters were quick to say that Baba was not the visitor of President Ruto, he was the visitor of the king in State House. Some questions still linger. What will happen what about the artifacts and the important things that our people are using that were taken to British museums? Who really reparates for the people who lost their identity, their livelihoods? Where are some of the soldiers who went to fight abroad and they never came back? So I noticed that even as there was the nice, we brought you English, we brought you literacy, we have had an enduring friendship for over 70 years, there was also the conversations around, it's not enough for you to apologize, reparate us, bring back our artifacts. So I could see that it was a mix of excitement, but also reminding the king and the queen that we have a pending conversation and there are outstanding issues that must be discussed now.
I think you really capture it very well. First of all, I think I'm not I do not like royalty. And
You don't like them at all?
at all.
Why?
First of all, the king was dressed very shabbily. Look at that suit. What is it with putting your hand on the upper pocket? I think you pocket in your trousers. All the time is like this, surely. And then Camilla Ball, the queen, look, the outfit, the king's outfit is 2 inches oversized. The coat is creased. This is a fashion disaster. Then you are coming to Africa. You are coming to cement what you call the ties. I agree that in diplomacy, you don't say, I'm sorry. Diplomacy, you cannot say, I'm sorry, because sorry for what? That's why you say, I deeply regret. That's diplomatic language. In diplomacy, we don't have saying sorry, as it is. But the question is a bigger thing. Remember, on 23rd of this month, of October, the Queen of Netherlands was here. And the Queen of Netherlands, 23rd to 25th, brought a very significant, she was talking about equality and all this. Currently, the president of Germany is in Tanzania, Mr. Steinmeier. And he's also meeting the Majimaji rebellion heroes, the people who survived, the offspring of those kids. And they have agreed to bring the skull of Chief Songea Mbano, who led Majimaji rebellion. And they're talking about reparations to those people. What am I talking about? It seems that the European powers have this nostalgia with their colonies. It cannot be that at the same time, the German president, and remember, the German president is in Tanzania, the Queen and the King is in Kenya, at the same time, 2 days before, the Queen of Netherlands is in Kenya. My problem with this is that they're coming to check on their estate as the landlord. Remember, this was Imperial British East Africa. Imperial. The Majesty's land. So they are coming to check. It's like a landlord who comes to check your house and tells you, na hii nyumba yangu, umeharibu ukuta, kwani watoto wanachora na makapen.
Hatutakurudishia deposit yote.
You understand? Hata hii deposit sitawarudishia. But we are independent, yes. But independent, we are not independent economically. So they still come and tell us, oh, you have to do this. That's why IMF is making our cost of living hell in this country and World Bank. That's why the king can come and we roll a red carpet and we don't tell him the truth. And when he's meeting the Mamao veterans, like my good friend Gitu Wakahengeri, who is talking about reparation or Kimathi's grandchildren, it is in private. Why are we not doing it in public? If you actually mean what you're saying, then when you're meeting Mamao hero like Gitu Wakahengeri, let's have cameras like this. Let's discuss and say, this is it. But you know what? We have to talk about the Laikipia land, which is 90% owned by the British. We have to talk about Matuk, which is their training ground. And the people who live in those areas still do not enjoy that, whatever they're supposed to enjoy. So when you tell us the king has come, I say the landlord came to Kenya, ate a good meal, in oversized shirts and coats, and came to see how his empire is going.
And if I may ask, are we at risk of being colonized again, or we are strong enough to never be colonized again?
But you're colonized still, economically.
Okay, so the wars and everything, that's what. Now the depth of what happened
in those
years.
Do not, there's nothing about foreign domination which people want to come and see. If I can colonize you through economy, what the hell will I come and do with you and stay here?
That's extra work.
It's extra work.
Yeah, so they don't. So we are still colonized.
I would say
we're still looking for independence.
I would say we're still colonized. I would say we're still colonized to the extent that even the king and them, they still feel the need to apologize over things because they still don't see us as an equal.
Yes.
Because now, until you're seen as an equal, I don't necessarily need to come and look at you as a person who always needs a helping hand. And as a person now, I need to now get more leverage with you because you're going through a certain, or even I need to press you down with other terms and conditions that apply, so that now even you need to cater to my interest. And hence you are not able to even come to the table and ask for a certain level of like now being treated like, okay, this is the deal and we need this, and hence now this needs to be serviced within this period of time, but then now I'm not able to do that because the table is not equal. That's the main thing.
But really for me, if I could just come in and talk about, you've given us 3 instances of the Netherlands Queen, the president who is in Germany, and then I sort of just, it takes me a step back to the global politics. Traditionally, countries that were colonized had very strong ties with their colonizers. But I've noticed, like for example in West Africa, the French, the countries that, the Francophone countries, all the countries that were colonized by the French, there's a coup or an attempted coup or some sort of shift in the global politics where they are becoming friends with allies that are not friends with their colonizers. So I see, for example, if you look at a country like South Africa, for example, while they are masters, for example, in this war that is happening between Israel and Palestine, they have pronounced themselves and they are saying, we stand with Palestine. We've also seen cases where there has been new economic blocks that are not necessarily traditionally West, as you've seen. People are looking East. People are saying, we have BRICS, we are friends with China and Russia. Could it also be a case of our colonial masters noticing that even though they were holding us properly and with their grips, we have now started seeing that we could also be allies with other people and we could still do big business. And that's why you've seen people looking East and West. And so they are coming to try and make peace with us, because even without them, we could still have other options. I think there's geopolitics here. Tanzania, for example, have been doing a lot of trade and a lot of infrastructure with China. And now here is Germany going. If Germany really had the grip of Tanzania, Tanzanians would be speaking German. They speak Kiswahili and a bit of English. So now probably they have also seen that Africans are not as docile, they are not as clueless. There's technology that has brought us together. And even without our colonial masters, we could still make friends and have allies in other places. And so they are trying to, because who is our biggest trading partner? I believe it's China, not England, Britain. So I also see geopolitics there where they are not seeing that we have options.
So I think you've captured it well, but I will tell you that 90% of our economy is run by the English. All the tea farms, even Kericho, are English. If you go to all these ranches in the north, are English. We are independent, yes. But if you look at the companies in their stock exchange, even Safaricom, 60% is English. What am I talking about? Yeah. And you brought a very significant point about West Africa. The difference between British and the French is that the French colonizers wanted everyone to be a Frenchman, and they wanted you to go through. They gave independence to the West African nation, but they retained three fundamental things. The central bank of all those West African countries are in Paris. Number one. In the deed for independence, number two was any major project in those colonies or ex-colonies must be undertaken by the French, and they had a right to refusal.
All this time?
Until today. Have you heard the Central Bank of Burkina Faso? Where is it? Of Niger? Of Mali? It is in Paris. They do not have a central bank. I want you to understand the dynamics of global, why politics is different. And then the third thing is that they determine who is your president. And that's why there's enough coup d'etats, because there's a lot of what? It's not like the English or the German control the Portuguese nations, where they give you your own central bank. For example, the South African central bank which you brought, is private. You know, do you know that South African central bank is not public? It's private. It's not like your Kenyan central bank.
Okay, so
that's
so now
economics.
let's convert 500 USD to South African money, because that is the only amount, that one and below, of items. Like items worth 500 USD and below. That is the only thing you need to travel with if you're traveling, because anything above that will be taxed. Now, I understand there are wigs that cost up to 75,000, which are more expensive. So my question exactly, how are they going to come up with how they're going to tax them, and what kind of items are they taxing? Because I know a lot of people do designer items and they are very expensive. So if my suitcase has 2 perfumes and 2 wigs, then it means I'm paying tax for my luggage. Please, Simon.
From my understanding, what happened was, the main thing is, carrier are trying to like reach into the bag of like anybody that's coming even into Kenya, even transporting. You know, people will say, "Hey, Abu, bring me this." And from the States, whatever, Abu, bring me this from whatever, and I'll send you anything that's actually new. They want to even double tax it, and anything that's actually being used for commercial use. You know, there was a lot of pushback because there was one person who came, they were trying to see a wedding dress, and then they'll bring in a wedding dress, and then now they were even taxing even that wedding dress on itself.
Yeah.
Now even someone who's actually now viewing Kenya as a place to do a wedding. You know, that's also now limiting now the people who actually want to come here and view it as, okay, this is a place I can actually do this, a place I can actually even shoot a film, a place I can actually do such and such things. But now when you're not even taxing, even I'm bringing even a small even device that costs even about $500 US, that's when now we start bringing a lot of issues, because now I'm bringing, and you know how KRA are, if your bag, toa, hini nini, what, this is over 500, later he. Now because of that friction, of course, there's a lot of calamities. Like, what is this? What kind of nonsense are we bringing at the airport?
Yeah.
Now we're making it look like a very Kenyaji farm. What are we turning this into? And then we're trying to come in here and try to even view Kenya as a place to visit, a place that can actually even not a place to come and get more stress. And then now with that, and then because there's a lot of us Kenyans, what we do is we buy things from outside to come and resell it here. Because it may be cheaper a little bit on the outside, because there is sometimes goods here a little bit more expensive because they've already been all those taxes that have been added on, thanks to the government that you guys voted for. Congratulations. And then that, but with that, they're trying to even get their hands deeper into that aspect of things, because it's basically now, based on my understanding, is that any new, it could be, you could have something that's unboxed and everything that's old, even if it's above 500 USD, it should not be that. Any new that's meant to be used for commercial, not private. If it's my own private thing, if it's my own boxer that's even above 500 US dollars, don't disturb it. It's mine. It's my own personal use. It's mine. But that main thing is, when you start now digging deep this way for taxes, honestly, I think there's a better way we can actually handle this professionally. Rather than actually digging into people's personal items, even when we're trying to get and understand that indeed, this book that you bought it's above 500 USD and you bring it in Kenya and it's still wrapped, so it's still new. Now we gotta ask you all these screening questions, and we still gotta ask you about security purposes and so many things. This can be a headache. Even as a Kenyan, even when you want to fly back in, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a headache really. And also Kenya, we have always prided ourselves to be a tourism destination, a place where people just want to make. And I've noticed even the kind of content that visitors are making is like street food, coming to Nairobi, taking nice photos. And then here you are at the airport. First, there's so much antagonism, because when you tell me, this is my phone, it looks new, it is antagonistic, and I tie it to the increase in the cost of parks entrance, where, like, for example, to get into the national parks, the prices have tripled or even doubled. And you know, your average tourist is a person with an adventurous spirit. They want to give reviews, and I've noticed nowadays the travel vloggers and the travel YouTubers, they actually, when you want to visit a country, you go to YouTube and hear what people will review about your country. And I would tend to trust them. So imagine these YouTubers and the young adventurous people will come, and the first thing they'll talk about your country is how they were frozen at the airport. I also anticipate cases of bribery and antagonism at the airport. So in the end, Kenya will become a very unfriendly country, even for travel YouTubers and what have you. And number two, this issue of taxation, they just have to find another way of making money to be used to fund their deficit and their extravagance, because they are traveling a lot, the government officials, but not really harassing young people who have just traveled, bought equipment to come. And creatives, I anticipate creatives, people who buy cameras and laptops, and, you know, people whose that is actually a source of income for them, because they'll be making videos and what have you. So this is contributing towards making Kenya a very unfriendly country to travel to. And maybe in the next 1 year or 2 years, the ripple effect will be people choosing other countries. I've seen our neighbor Rwanda. That's where most conferences are being held. Just yesterday, I saw Rwanda saying any African just come without a visa. So now you'll be seeing people saying, me, I don't want to be harassed by those airport officials forcing me to give bribes and to their quality. Because also, what if I have a receipt that says my laptop is 499? They might say I've made a receipt somewhere, it's a funny receipt. So may I see these contributing towards making Kenya a very unfriendly country to travel to? Airports. Airports of countries should not be barriers. They should be bridges. I should feel the warmth once I get to the airport. You know, I've had the privilege of traveling to two places. And there's a way you feel the airport, how you are received at the airport really is the beginning of the mental picture of that country. So probably in the next 1 year, 2 years, we'll now be crying that there are no tourists coming to Kenya. But why should I come to Kenya if I can go to another African country where I don't have to be treated like a thief with people digging into my luggage and forcing me to pay a lot of taxes?
You know, and another thing, you know, nowadays, we tend to watch lions instead of going to visit them.
Yes.
And now they're here, increasing the price of seeing the lions. I feel like killing the tourism industry of a country is one of the worst way to go. And when we buy things outside and come and sell them in Kenya, that is that is a way of living for us. Like, I'm trying to make ends meet. And you're here now taxing everything that I bring. Don't forget that you're taxing everything that I buy in the country. It's like we are going to be these people who are locked in a certain room. We are freezing, we're not given enough, we are suffering, but there's nothing we can do. There's nothing, because if you bring anything from outside, you're paying for it. But wherever you are, you're already paying enough taxes. And they already did not meet their target for taxes. They couldn't, because look now, they're already going to dig somewhere else whereby it's not compulsory for me to buy those things from outside. Let's start with that. But I am trying to be able to afford a life. I don't like having to deal with this importations fees and all. I don't like dealing with all that. And then I've traveled to another country. Yes, I have bought new things for myself. I don't think you have any right to tax me for something that I bought for personal use. I might go and buy 10 of them because I love them and I know in this country it will be so expensive. I don't find it fair for you to tax me for that. But then again, we live in a country whereby we need to pay so many taxes.
I think that how I'll capture this conversation, I'll capture it with what the head of budget control said, Nancy Nyakango said that the government seems not to understand the number. For example, he said all the state officers, for example, her salary, she received like $1 million, but what comes from the exchequer is 3 million. So 2 million disappears, and that's with all state offices. So extravagance, what Wanja is saying is very true, that we are living a life we cannot afford. As a government, we are doing things, for example, we do not have a debt register. And she said, in those cost of living, it was a very eye-opening discussion at Bomas in this national conversation, that our debt register, we do not even know what debt we are paying as a country.
But we're just paying.
We are paying debt. Some people sit in the treasury and decide we have this debt. But you are not told that Simon says you took a loan of 3 billion, we have paid it, imebaki 1 billion to the Chinese.
Are they even paying?
They are paying, but no one has a register. What we need as a country, first of all, to tackle this taxation is that the government must give us a loan register so that we know what is our loan, how are we repaying our loans, and how much have we paid, and what is remaining. Number two, we must know how much money we put in the state of coffers and the state officers and how much. We must understand what do we use and what is wastage. If we do that, then we will come and ask ourselves, do we need to tax people? Because now we are taxing people and all that money is going through wastage, people's pockets, and to a debt which we do not know where.
Even staying with that tax story, there's even, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, there's even this interesting thing that a lot of even small businesses are going through with this Lipa na M-Pesa.
We are running away from it.
You
I am
see
one of
even
the
your
people who's
videos.
telling people, please you send money. I have it, but I'm running away from it. Oh, wow.
You've even
Yeah.
experienced it,
Yeah.
because there's even that aspect of things.
Yeah, you know, that aspect is actually turnover tax, which was introduced by the Finance Act for this 2023-2024 financial year. And turnover tax basically, and you know that the most Kenyans, 90% of Kenyans were against this finance bill that was forced onto our throats by our MPs who care more about the executive than the people who elected them. Turnover tax basically is that if you are a small business owner, whether you make profit or loss, you have to pay 3% to the government, regardless of whether you've made profit or not.
Yeah.
And now
Of
you'll
course.
find that the moment KRA is just on our neck, your average person will say, don't tie it to my till number. And also it really begs the question, can a country tax itself into prosperity? And the answer is no. Why? Because when you go to downtown Nairobi, unaona all the shops vacant. Rent with us. There is no down payment. You just come. So this whole issue of taxation, you've seen the cost of fuel, the cost of basic foods. It is actually not making it easy. Basically, they are stifling and they are killing businesses. So in the end, they'll harass everybody from all sides, and in coming days, we'll have nobody to tax. So it is just a bad strategy where now they have, and you know, there's no even prudence of what they're already taxing. The moment you see stories online, this one has traveled where, this one has traveled where, Kenyans have become so angry with the travel of the president that they took photos of Jomo Kenyatta and they made memes that this is the office of the president. So someone would ask, if you are traveling a lot, are we getting value for money? Are we getting return on investment?
Even that investment they can't get because, for example, the cost of establishing a business, the president has said that he's a #1 diplomat. We agree, he's a #1 diplomat, he's looking for investment. But the tax regime of establishing any international company here is preposterous. So people come in, they want to invest, but they take off immediately. Ask yourself how many companies have set up in the last 5 years. There are very few companies because we have not made a friendly environment for people to come and invest. And of course, Wanja is talking about the Laffer curve, that you cannot tax yourself to prosperity. The American economics has said that you lower the tax and you get more people to earn more, and you will collect even more tax because many people will get into business, will get into other ventures. So, but the Laffer curve dictates that the more you tax people, the more the other businesses shut or will go down, and people stop being economically viable. And then if you look at the KRA, the report which they say they lost 96 billion, 1.3 billion was from fuel. The fuel, Kenyans are not traveling anymore because they can't afford to travel. So the biggest component of our money is through fuel. Many Kenyans, any business you do, you want to travel, you want to go sell your wares. From here in Thika, you are moving, you're transporting, even if you have mangoes, you're transporting vegetables, you have to use fuel. So now it has become too expensive that has been a drop of 1.3 billion. And that's what was captured in that quarter. How do we move forward? We have to ask very pertinent questions. And I said, that it is the high time that, and I like what is going on at Bomas, the cost of living, that we have to have this discussion. The president, the government must realize that we can call their bluff now. Kenyans understand. You cannot say that you'll tax someone's bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, because it's new, and then you want to tax the bag because he's carrying a new phone. It is for his personal use. You can't dig. And how much will you raise by it anyway?
That's petty cash there.
Yeah.
Even you digging through my belongings.
But you know, they're not getting cash from the people right now because people are not working. Businesses are closing, so there's no tax.
But you know who's actually having a lot of money to even grab even other land that even Machakos County, what you call it? Country bus.
Yeah.
Hey, apparently that place.
Yeah.
So many years later.
Hey, apparently it's not even owned by the government. Apparently it's a private owner that's actually come out and say, by the way, that's my place. That's my area. I pay taxes for that area. That's actually my area. Actually, even that's so even we should even how many of these government areas that even we say that this is place for public utility. This is a place even, apparently it's a big area, even for going out, even getting your buses to go to various locations in up country. This is going to happen soon by next month. Here we are, Kenyans traveling various locations. But now, that area in itself, it's actually privately owned. Now here's the thing, what does this say even about even the government when it comes to efficiency of even providing a place for even public transportation, for even, not even that, even making sure that every single parcel of land that's even used by public for public utility is actually a place that is even government owned, so that now the government can actually even facilitate for business to be conducted there. Even now providing even other amenities for even people to even use it efficiently. Now you hear that. What else is next? Even you find out, Suji, now are we even on government land right now?
Maybe we are. And speaking of that Machakos country bus, you know, there are people who come. I think that is a stage for matatus from Mukambani and Western. That is the only place they know. You know, the way that is the landmark. From there, that's when they can get their bearing to go to the matatu for where they are going. So not only will people continue, if it's taken by those private people, they have stolen a very big landmark. You know, the people who know Afya Center, they have to know Afya Center first before they get the bearing of Nairobi. But that said, really, Kenyans, we really have an appetite for public land, because just, you don't know now if the private owner will come and say from tomorrow I'm building high rises, then what happens to that economy of matatus? And you know, when there is a bus stop matatus, there are shops there, there are M-Pesas there, there are hawkers, agents, people who carry muzigo with trolleys. So it's not merely taking away the buses that go to those safari mrefu, it is also taking away, like matatus are the anchor tenant of that public Machakos, and then there are many people who feed from that ecosystem. Now, it speaks a lot into how we protect private property, but also public property, but also speak a lot into how the Ministry of Land overall is run. Why? In that same breath, there was Mavoko homes, where people bought houses, and they built houses, and everybody could see, and we are told that during the demolition, around 29,000 people are affected, because one home has like 5 members. So you wonder, before there were transactions, see, there must have been the government land registry or land department involved. So at what point were these people convinced that this land is for people? And at what point did it become a property of East African Portland, which is actually a government agency? So the same case for Machakos. Machakos has always been Machakos. So who is this? Because you see, private citizens like me, I don't have a land registry in my house. So if we are transacting with you, in a way we have to touch the government land office in charge. So is the government accomplice of land thievery? Are they actually, is that coming from, are there even government officials who are involved? And what becomes of all those Kenyans who depend in that Kamachakos ecosystem, and where will all those bus travelers go to? And you know, it is almost at the outskirts of Nairobi, because Ninapo Machakos. So will they come to CBD? Where will they go? So those are some of the questions that come to mind, really.
Let me tell you, before I even comment on that, if you have a title deed for Arboretum, I'm buying a few acres, because at this point, someone is coming to claim that.
Yeah.
You know, it's for so many years, that place has existed as Machakos Country Bus. And a lot of people have known it to be that way. And I understand that most of the time, okay, maybe in the olden days, maybe this is one of the British land. In the olden days, maybe it was owned by a different person.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I would feel like, I don't think after all these years, it's been more than, I know more than 40 years.
Yeah.
So is it the grandchild of the owner or the owner? Because right now at this point, he must be very old when he bought the land to own it. I don't think it's right. What the government is doing when it comes to land is right. And if it's decided to go that way, just attack all the land in Kenya once, instead of trying to move people bits by bits to, like Machakos Country Bus, then what? Then what? Because that place we know very well. We are very sure. This Park Towers Limited. We doubt they own the Machakos land. And if they do own the land, if they really do own the land, then they donated it for far too long for it to be theirs again. Or if they're trying to rebuy, are the buses going to be the one buying the land?
Could it be a lease?
Yeah.
Could it be a lease?
Could have been leased.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to know that.
What do you think?
You see, first of all, is that the mess in the county assembly, our county council before, is a serious mess. That, for sure, the whole land in this CBD and Central Business District on outskirts of Nairobi is under Nairobi City Council. So there's no way someone can come and claim ownership of land, especially the bus terminus, because that's a public utility. And there are very many public utilities. They might not have a title to them. Remember when Langata Road Primary School, when our president was developing his hotel, they were told that they can't take the parking because that school didn't have a title, but eventually it was given a title. So it is true that most of our land areas in Nairobi have what we call allotment letters, but not a fully fledged title. Some of them is when they're developing the lease and all that. So some clever Kenyans have sat somewhere and have decided that this money which goes to the county, we can make it. And don't be surprised, that money is not, those people are not far away from the county. There are just some people in the county themselves who have decided we call ourselves this, and this is our land, and let's develop a title for it. And now, all these buses which are coming here will be paying us, and as we pay a rate to the county council. You understand? So it has become someone's ingenious idea to do business with what is actually originally county's land. So what I'm trying to say is that there's nowhere that you can take a public utility and say you develop. It's like these Nigerian fraudsters who once sold a fake airport to a Brazilian bank. Yes. Surely. There's someone who even tried to sell KICC to someone.
For real?
Yeah. All of a sudden, KICC, which is a government building, someone decided, I know KICC is mine. The title of that land is mine. So I can sell you KICC. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we must actually be, as Kenyans, we must also cut our appetite for public good, public utilities.
What makes them so lucrative and so enticing? Is it because of the positioning and then and the fact that we don't, like for example, if you see that government official, you're seeing that. So here is the piece of land. I think there's a way you can utilize this for my own personal benefit.
Yes, because now you hike the prices. You see now, currently the matatus maybe spend 100 bob to park during the day as they're waiting for customers. And at night is maybe 200. So it will be, they want to change it to the normal rates like a private parking. We tell you, for you to park in this, and even those guys who have those kiosks, they pay a normal county council license and all that. They do not have to pay amount of money for, let's say the space you're occupying is a 60 by 30, you need to pay me 200,000 to operate. When this guy takes over, he will tell you, now, I'm charging per square kilometer, per square foot of what area you're occupying. You'll pay me rent for this much. These vehicles, if you've been paying 100 bob, my parking from tonight will be 500. Then he pays the county council with only 100. So it takes 400. So it becomes a business. Someone has seen a business opportunity.
It's a very bad season to do business in Kenya right now. It's a very horrible season.
But that's what makes it, because even what you mentioned even about, because they're doing good business, Hapo.
Yes.
No, the county government is, look,
doing good business.
the people who are claiming land and the county government that is going to get
It's
the money,
collusion.
they are doing good business. But for a normal Kenyan,
Yeah.
it's a very bad time to do business right now. A lot of people who are, like for example, if you tell me I'm paying 500 to park my bus there, or I look at what I'm making to pay my conductor, my driver, and to repair that bus,
And
I look
fuel.
at every fuel has gone high, and you can't tell someone, you know what, fuel went high, now you'll pay this fare. A lot of people are not traveling because of that. So they are trying so much to kill this business. It's, I don't know, to some extent, I feel like life is becoming more and more unbearable every time, because when you affect that bus, you're affecting even the simplest person who is always like, I want to go see my people, I'm going to use that bus. You're affecting everyone, and it's going to even to affect families. Do you know people who are working in different places? They know this is where I travel to go see my family. That husband will be like, I'll come after 3 weeks.
Yesterday, what you're saying, Maria, is very fundamental. Yesterday, I had a mechanical breakdown on Southern Bypass at around 7:30. And then, luckily enough, one of my colleagues was also driving by, so he came and we were waiting for my mechanic to come. Then a young man was passing, and I told him, where are you going at 7:30? He says he's walking all the way. He's from industrial area. He's going to Kibera, Wanga. I'm like, it's 7:30.
In the morning?
At night.
At night.
So I asked him, why? I said, because the amount of money I make, I cannot use fare. And I leave at around 7 or 7:15. So I have to walk for 1 hour or 1.5 hours in this darkness to my home. The next day in the morning, I'll have to get out at around 5:30 and start walking back to work. And I realized people really have a problem in this country now. You cannot afford bus fare because the amount of money you're being paid is very low. If you now, this same man you're talking about, because it's from Western Kenya, if he decides to travel to the village, the only bus he can afford is in Machakos bus stop.
Msamaria
Mwema. Yes. So this thing complicates it even worse if it's in private hands, because the private hand will actually increase the parking fee. So this man will not be able to travel to the village because he has 6 kids and his wife, and he needs that bus, and he needs good fare. The fuel is high, the way the cost of fuel has gone up, the way Maria is saying. There's a lot of mechanical issues, and so this man clearly will have to walk towards Kangemi to get a bit cheaper way of going to the village.
And also, if I could just think about that man, just to sort of echo that and say that this issue of cost of living, you see now, hizo parking fees ikiongezwa when it goes to private property, in the end, all that cost inapasiwa to the consumer, who is that man. And you know, when you really listen to people, you start asking yourself, now a packet of unga or traveling to Busia or something, maybe the fare was 1,500, now it's 2,200. Now, the income of that person has not increased. So there's a difference.
And it's taxed.
It is taxed. So there's a difference between assuming that man, if the income has increased from maybe 20K to 60K, well, he wouldn't really feel the pinch. But you're operating with the same income, and yet the expenses and the price, everything has shot by almost double. So in the end, there is no purchasing power. When he's going to Machakos country bus, maybe he could have passed by Kamukunji and bought a kettle for his wife. Now he can't be able to, because you don't have residual income that you can buy something for yourself. So in the end, it's even affecting those businesses around there, because I wouldn't buy 3 samosas, I wouldn't buy do this and that. So I really see how all that corruption and all that taking of such a critical amenity is affecting very many people in that chain.
And you see all this is affecting me right now. So you know what you need to do? Let's take a break. And we'll be right back. Right after this.
New Superstay Vinyl Ink from Maybelline, New York. Shake up your longwear with no budge vinyl color. Color lock formula. Up to 16-hour wear. New Superstay Vinyl Ink, Maybelline, New York.
We've been having a wonderful conversation. We've talked about very heavy issues, about tax, about stealing and fraud of public property, and of course the king with his oversized coat.
Designer oversized.
Now we move on to the next level, and of course, Simon, you're bringing us back with
a very a high level conversation. We want to go to a higher standard. And why
The
am I
most high.
Yes, we want to connect to the most high conversation.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm saying this is recently, let me tell you what happened. So church, you know, sometimes you go to church every Sunday. I'm sure you just came from church right now as soon as you're viewing this, hopefully. But in fact, I hope you did not go to this church in Rongai. What did they do? Hey, let me tell you. So what happened was people were actually looking for a lost goat. Where did it go? Well, they were looking for it and maybe went in the church. They were looking for it. And what did they find? Wow! Bangi right there. It was wrapped up nicely. It was almost as if it was a sacrifice unto the Lord or something like that. They were packaged there very nicely right there. It was all nice. It was not just a little piece. It was a lot. It was enough weed to even make a lot of people get high by just even sniffing it. Well, you could say that they were getting closer to the Most High by even getting that weed around their church in that sense. But the main thing was this. Why was this church harboring so much weed in their actual church? And people were just looking for a goat, by the way. And even they found the goat, but it was actually even eaten by the because you know after you get high, you get munchies. Yeah. So anyway, but this goat was actually found. And actually, no, the goat was actually not found, but they found a lot of weed and everything under the church. And even the people said that, you know what, one of the guys in the news item, they said that we need to investigate every single one of these church members to find out if these guys are actually drug peddlers around here making our youth go the wrong way. What do you think about even finding weed in church? Is this the church that indeed speaks the truth? That indeed want to get closer to the Most High in a practical way?
First of all, most of these churches just start. These are men who have not gone through training. And I'm against these people who say that it's a calling. Even if you've been called, just go to school. Let that calling find you doing theology somewhere or learn what you're going to do to preach to people. Because these people are now, either it's a cash cow, yeah, the easy way to make money, churches are, or others are, I'm just going there. And you know, when you have a rich, we call them the rich, you know, this congregation, there's someone rich in a congregation. You know, they're favored in most churches. Yeah, if you want to be favored in church, Simon, get
just
rich. Yeah. So we find these rich people are doing the wrong things, the wrong businesses, and they're supported by the church. Like, okay, I need to hide my weed. Just come to church at this time, no one will be in church, just put it there. Most of these things happen because there are no regulations, there are no limitations anymore, and the fact that these people that were called do not know the importance of being called to do the right thing. They will just support people who are doing the wrong thing in that congregation, and they're okay. And I am one of the people who is, my dad is a pastor, by the way, and I don't know why most of the time nowadays I feel like I'm so against these people call themselves men of God, because when you look at what they are doing, I wouldn't want my child to be preached by someone like that. There's that judgment you have because of the characters they are portraying. These are the people that they drink whoever they want, they are humanizers, they have so many vices, and some of us would see them and we know them. But when it comes to church, they are preaching the word of God. Read your Bible and pray it for yourself. When you go to those churches, not everything you get or hear or see is the Bible truth. Learn to preach to yourself sometimes, it helps. And it gives you that freedom of, if right now this man of God is telling me don't eat until you die, you will know that this is wrong. You will understand what you are being told. Because everyone nowadays is taking a Bible, reading it and then choosing the verse that favors them. Pay tithe so that you can be blessed. Do this. Just bring your business to God. I just wish there were, these people are told, go training first. Learn first what you're doing. And also, if you find a pastor with a scandal, stop giving them opportunities to still go and preach to other people. It's misleading the generations at the moment. And another thing, Gen Zs are now pastors.
Amen.
Good.
Amen.
These Gen Zs are now pastors. They want to live this life and still live as pastors.
Okay, what do you think about before I say my way? Because I have a very interesting perspective, but I just want to know: could you consider yourself a woman of God?
Of course, she is.
Well, I would consider myself a Christian, but just to agree with Maria about the issue of the regulation and the issue of putting checks and balances, if I were to use that phrase, in churches, and I noticed that churches can change when there is regulation for them to change. During Corona, you know, I'm a Catholic, and one of the significant part of the Catholic Mass is actually greetings of peace. Tusalimiane salamu za amani. So people shake hands, And then Corona came, and the government said that few people to go to church, the elderly and the vulnerable don't go to church because you are susceptible, but don't shake hands. That has been, the tradition of shaking hands has been as old as the church. And then we started doing like this, like to greet each other in the air. And even post-corona, right now when I go to church, during that part of the mass, which happens in every church everywhere in the world, we don't shake hands. So that part that is symbolic, it happens in every church. Sign of peace, greetings of peace, where you greet your neighbor by shaking of hands. Post-corona, we now do like this. What does that show? That if the government regulates and says, watoto wasikuje kanisa, I also noticed that at that time, there was a lot of embracing of technology, where we would watch masses in the house, and the number of people to go, you know, sitting space and everything. The same way that there was a big government regulation out of a health pandemic, I believe that the government can still regulate churches. Just as Maria has said, Shakahola. All the people who died and all the funny stories and all the scandals around Shakahola were all in the name of religion. I just noticed recently that the Senate was actually doing an investigation and some sort of a public inquiry for this church for Pastor Ezekiel. So what is showing us is that it seems like the churches have, some of the churches, not all, have taken advantage of the fact that they have a free hand to do everything. They don't pay taxes, respect them, don't lay your hand on the anointed, that they have become drug barons. And the question is, how many other churches are also doing bad things like money laundering and drugs? And the difference is that they have not been caught. We thank the goat for getting lost, because it is out of the goat that the weed was found. And also, is it that the church would have stopped that tabia, or is it just that they got caught? And it seems like now we really need to hold them to account. I've also noticed that the church has become very controversial. We saw how much they took political sides during the elections. I saw how, for example, there has been this conversation around health of our girls, HPV vaccines, some vaccinations where they have started now even making remarks that are against health, where they're saying, no, this is not good, you are giving our children contraceptives. And because they know that they have a followership, they are even coming in the way of health for our people. So I see this as a long overdue period for us to regulate the churches. There should be new regulations. They just can't have a free hand to do whatever they want, because this is an indicator of a bigger problem. What else are they doing that is against the law? It's just that they have not been caught.
Has the church really lost its way?
First of all, I would say that the church is a very important institution in a society. Extremely important, because the church is like an anchor to our moral goals. The problem I have is that there are some individuals who have gone to church and found it as a thriving business. So now, the moment you lose the morality, when the church loses its own morality, which is supposed to be the main focus, and it starts venturing into the politics, into business, then there's a problem. And this thing has stemmed when the emergence of the 80s, when something came which we call the prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel, where we preach one part of the Bible and forget the teachings, the prophets, and all the moral lessons. And then just say that if you tithe, you will be blessed. So that's where the rain started beating us. But I'll bring you to something else which is more fundamental. There's a book by three professors from the University of Nairobi, which is a must read for any Kenyan who is going to church. It's called The Rational Path. It's only 80 pages. It's written by Professor Henry Odera Oruka, the sage philosopher. That's a political scientist. Professor Jesse Mugambi, the late religion, and Professor Henry Ojwang Boma, the former justice of Supreme Court. They're writing about religion, politics, KTN law. And they say that, remember that religion is based on morals and faith. If you do not have faith, then you do not have to go, and if the person who is preaching you do not have a moral background or a standpoint, then why are you listening to him? And then there are laws which are supposed to govern all these things. And then there's the philosophy part of it. You see, if Kenyans had, and if you go to the most informal settlements where you'll find thriving church business, because there's also economic indicator. The lower the economies of scale, the higher the faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why Karl Marx said religion is opium of masses.
Of the masses.
So if you go to, for example, these things, you'll not find them in Karen, you'll not find them in Lavington, you'll find them in affluent estates. You'll find them in the areas where people are struggling, because that's why you can preach that money is the root of all evil. But do you know in the Bible also there's a verse that money cures all other things? Same Bible.
That's true.
You know,
And here's the thing. Even here's the only a different caveat into all this.
Yes.
Even if you're saying that church is a business and there's a lot of morality that's lost, you know, during harsh economic times is when people go to church, correct? And during this time, a lot of people even are leaning towards even going back towards church, even going to a central belief, because they're looking for what? That hope aspect. If you're selling hope and people will seem to receive it, go ahead and sell that hope. And you have the basis of this book that you're calling the Bible, and you're working within the guidelines of the law, go ahead and do that. The only issue, I don't even have an issue or even caveating, even if you just got in there for the money, go ahead and do that, you bastard. If you want to do that, go ahead and do it for the money, because that's your thing. As long as you're doing a deliverable that's actually of positive value, go ahead and do that. The issue is now you as the individual. Be smart enough and recognize and siphon out and recognize that indeed, is this individual the right person who's actually communicating something that's actually beneficial to my life? Because I even think, even if the person that's actually started that church from the wrong intention of bus profits, they can actually be someone, get something good from that message that is gotten, and actually produce something actually positive. Just because the origins are actually quote unquote non-pure or moral origin does not mean that the output will actually be a non-pure and immoral output. So within the confines of the law, and you actually want to do that, go ahead. That just means that you're a good orator. You know how to communicate your thoughts, and people know how to come underneath your sheepfold. That's why for me, I am not so caught up in the moral aspect of it all, because that's not necessarily constricted within the law aspect of it all, because the law has its own ways of doing things. But now, within the moral aspect of it all, go ahead, as long as you don't overstep your boundaries when it comes to the law aspect. Because because that's one thing I say. You have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, because you see, what you're saying, Simon, the government root duty is to protect vulnerable Kenyans.
Yeah.
And one of them is against churches which prey on them. You see, one, there are two things. There are people who, and you've seen the cults. You've known the cults from the American race and all this. If we allow people with their definition, I can tell you, people will kill each other. You remember the Molo church which were saying the world is ending, sell your things.
Yes.
You understand?
I get you.
So there are some decisions we cannot leave to individuals who are warped in their mind.
But now, if we go in, here's the only issue I have. You see how you're saying, let the government come in the church and everything. And this is the same government you complain about coming into your pockets, all
We are
the
saying-
other sectors. I understand regulations.
We'll
I
pay-
understand
we'll pay
regulations.
off-
We are
to
not
them.
saying the government to
Okay.
come and do and regulate. We are saying every organization have a self-regulatory mechanism. In the media, you have the media council, a self-regulation. In any other aspect of life, set a body which, first of all, checks the mental stability of this man who is preaching to people. Because listen, you saw when Mohammed Jichopevu did Kanyari's church when he was using potassium permanganate and saying that someone is healing their legs. It was an investigative. Surely, the levels people have gone in this country for followership, and then they come to television to buy that space or program for 30 minutes, and you know very well, or 1 hour, that you have actually brought water and potassium and you've hidden between your hands, and you're telling this desperate Kenyan who thinks you're healing him, that the Lord is healing him. Na umeweka kwa maji na tandari, unamwambia, you see, I told you, you're getting healed. And there are thousands, millions who are watching on television and believing what you're doing. It's a serious problem.
That one I understand. That ethical part of it, or like the selling of the miracles and everything.
Yes.
Even the more modern one would be is the sense that using the pulpit as a form of advertising, for example, even selling your recent book, or even selling like this particular thing. You know, there's ways to commoditize the church. And even you may say like that one is immoral, but that one is not, because there are ways to even make money even when you're even behind the pulpit, that even the pastor will even say that this will help you elevate your connection with God if you actually do this, or you actually get involved in our groups, which now have a fee for you to actually now join in. People can actually even say it that way. You see there's blurred lines sometimes when it actually comes to that, because that's the extreme one, then there's another extreme aspect, but I'm telling you, there's this middle ground, the safe zone, that a lot of pastors even play with, and actually now play. This is ways that can actually now bring streams of income.
Okay. And there are also very good people in church, by the way.
Yeah.
I understand. There are extremely good people who are really doing good job there. Like there are people who are missionaries, and we see them doing that work diligently, and they believe. And actually, if you go into that church, there are some churches you go into, you see this is a calling. You see the way they have educated kids, they have taken the widows, because the role of the church is to feed them spiritually, feed them and dress them, and also give them education and health. And if the churches which are doing that pretty well, and they're in the slums and they're doing well, and kids, and people can give you testimonies and say to you, and me, I didn't have money to go to school. This pastor educated me. And those ones we applaud. But now the sharks, hey.
Okay, in the spirit of running away from immoral pastors, what are you doing in December? Well, are you going to get your Maisha card at that time? Because Maisha cards are coming out in December, and there's even a budget. Okay, this Kenya with budgets nowadays, wow. There's a budget for that. My question is, are we going to get rid of our IDs, the normal identification card? And also, what happened to Huduma number? Because, okay, anytime I say that, I'm not okay. Because I remember I had a newborn going to apply for that thing. I don't like that. However, in December, that is when the Maisha cards will be coming. I don't know the criteria in which they'll be giving us the cards. I hope they're not telling us to queue anywhere, because we'll be lighting Christmas trees and going to church. So, what's your take?
What is in a name, really? Whether it's called Maisha number, whether it's called Huduma number, whether it's called what. My question is, it is a form of identity. Just the other day, I saw Kenyans on media really annoyed because of the passport, which is an identity document, that it took a cabinet secretary to go himself to Nyayo House where people get passports. Then I was asking myself, how weak are our institutions that a whole minister has to go literally on the ground to assure Kenyans? So if getting IDs is a problem, if getting a passport, which is actually a right and a form of identification, is a problem, why do we keep reinventing the wheel and forming many forms of identification if the process is so complicated that they are publishing names of people, when to go, when to pick, and so on. Issue 2 about the Huduma number, I see it as just disorganization of government, and here is why. When a new government comes into place, and the government is like a wheel or whatever that keeps moving and moving, there's so much reinvention of the wheel other than continuing with where the other person stopped. Because if the whole point is to ensure that all the forms of identification are in one place, so I wonder, so whatever we did and all the money spent on Huduma number has gone to waste. Also, has there been a form of public participation for Kenyans to say what they really want? How did they come about to say that we now need a Huduma number? Because a person who is waiting for a passport, I'm sure when you ask them, they tell them, before you tell me about a new form of identification, get me a passport. After all, being in Kenya is so hard, I want to go abroad. So I see a lot of reinvention of the wheel, a lot of complication. What are the best practices? I would ask. I'm told that if you go to the West, like in America, if you have one document, it has your driving license, it has your NHIF for that place, the health, whatever. It has a lot of information. And I wonder, I think that was what Huduma number was attempting to cure. So now if we have this Maisha number, no public participation, they have decided there are so many moving parts, there's so much confusion. I just wonder really if they have thought to the process, about the process to the very end. I'm also curious to know what exactly they are trying to cure. What are they curing with this new Maisha number? Is it NHIF? Is it put all our information in one place? It's quite confusing for me.
It's just a budget. They're just getting a budget for it. The 1 billion.
It's true. Yeah, the 1 billion that even you mentioned. Forget even the Huduma driver's licenses. Remember the new age driver's licenses that were supposed to come out, the new ones and everything?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get them, all of the things are supposed to be there. For example, in the States that you're mentioning, driver's licenses, what you usually have, like all the information, literally now where you stay, or all that, even your past criminal history, or anything like that. The officer will even be able to, like, because it's connected with your number plate, the officer will just be able to scan your number plate. No, Simon is the owner of that car. So when I stop, I'm expecting to see Simon, and if I don't see Simon, hence I'll even ask, who is this that's actually driving this car? That's usually now when it comes to that aspect of things. This is just basically what is in a name. That's basically what you said. Even I love the way you put it, like, Huduma number, Maisha number, and then type a number, so whatever numbers that you actually want. Which number do you want? Which number do you want from us, government, by the way? You want our phone numbers? You already have them. The main thing is, when it comes to all these things, just regeneration of even it's a siphoning of funds in one way or another. I can smell you, government. You are species and we see you coming. We have seen, and you're doing it on year 1. I think even the former president did it on like year 3 or something like that. In his second, I think Huduma number came in like his
2018,
last
2019.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have already started year 1. Wait, you guys are coming fast. And who's gonna get my number? I already have my own life. This is my life. Hey. But apparently they're saying that they want to target the people who have lost their IDs, and the people who actually now, they're targeting the Form 4 leavers. Now, right now, the guys who are just applying to get Maisha number, so on and so forth, to actually get them in a biometric system. You know, they'll start telling you, we're going to streamline everything. We're going to put it in one place so we can actually see who you actually are and be able to give you government services more effectively. Wapi. That was just a lot of talk and everything, because I think what it is trying to say that we are putting on a different makeup routine, but because of this makeup routine we're having, we're going to be able to have a good relationship with you, rather than actually focusing on the true content as to what makes these services more streamlined for us individuals. It's not the Huduma number, the Maisha number, or even the Kufa number. What is Kufa Huko, by the way? The main thing is, it should actually be, how do I actually streamline this service? So when Simon breaks his leg, how is he able to now, because he's been able to deduct a certain amount every single month, or even deduct a certain amount from his income, how is he able to go to a certain hospital, walk in, scan one thing, or even whichever way he identifies himself? That service is offered to him efficiently, fast, and actually delivered. That is it. All these other makeup. Kwenda huko, what is all this now?
Simon, if I could just come in real quick. I'm also curious about issues around data protection, because I presented myself. I remember I was like, I don't want to take this Huduma number now, like 4 years ago. And then I was told, you know, there was a lot of threats around it. You won't get a passport. You see, it's like the government is at war with us. They keep threatening us instead of marketing it for me to see its use. So I remember I presented myself towards the last minute. I scanned all my fingers. So now it seems like there is no end. There is nothing about Huduma number because we are starting something else. But I gave out my data. I gave out my name. They took my photos. They took my fingerprints for all the fingers. So there was also a conversation with the database. Who is the one who has been given that tender? They have my data. I don't have a Huduma number. So what become of that data? And I've noticed that in Kenya we play a lot with data and fingerprints. Isn't it the other day where young people were told that they'll be paid 5K or 7K, their eyeballs, iris, they're taking photos. Now, if the government said you can't take their eyeballs or iris, so what happens to the data that is with those people? They have our Huduma number, all of us who presented ourselves. Where is that data? How safe is it? If they really want to reinvent the wheel, why can't they use that data already? So I am also wondering the aspect of data and our fingerprints. What if it's mishandled and tomorrow my fingerprints will, I don't know, but I just wonder, so much confusion around the data and how it's kept.
So you get a
The way they come for
I-
land, they will use our fingerprints to do something else.
I think every government has always to get a scandal on its name. Every regime, by the way. 2002, Mwai Kibaki gets in. The only election which Kenyans voted, and Kenyans were voted the happiest people in Africa, are number 5 in the world. Happy, they got a president elected by majority of Kenyans. 2002, 2003, January, the first thing which ever happened, Anglo-leasing scandal.
Boom.
Boom, people out. Uhuru Kenyatta comes in, boom, NYS scandal, boom, there's a Huduma number scandal, and there are so many, even Nairobi regeneration scandal. William Ruto comes in, this Maisha Magic card comes immediately.
Maisha Magic, even you call it Maisha Magic. Maisha number.
So, my question is that when I look at all this, and you're asking, Wanja was asking a fundamental question. Remember, this is not about, these cards is not about your fingerprint. It's about your irises. It's the Altman thing back.
They want to take our iris.
They will.
No, I don't want the card.
So there's money here. There's a scandal of 1 billion or 2 billion where people will, and where it will be stored, and someone is harvesting that data. And now, to make even worse, they are trying, they have been paid by someone to bring this Maisha number so that your iris will be scanned now as one way. And you'll see in those papers coming in. So the question is, remember the government was telling us they did not agree or did not allow Altman to come and do that, what was going on. Then the next week, our good president, William Ruto, was in the United States. And who received him among them? Altman was there, isn't it? And they were talking business. So here we are saying, we are raising a lot of issues that why is these people taking and paying people 5,000? When the president goes there, he's meeting the same person who is purportedly being grilled by the...
Are they tired with all the irises of the US people?
No, they are the guinea fowls. You are the first ones to be tried.
Okay.
And then we move into the next
so
one.
So we are doing practicals here when it comes to Maisha.
Of course, Kenya is the only place where you can come because you have internet penetration, which is very high.
Yeah.
You have a very young, skilled workforce. You have transport and you have infrastructure where you can do all this. If you go to any other African country, all these things are not connected. So for me, I will come and do it easily here. Because one, Kenyans can afford to be on the internet. The feature phones are less than the main phones, which we use for social media and all that. And we know, the people know the numbers, that it's easy. Our telecommunication is a notch higher than most of these African states. So it's, with that virtue, people come here to do a lot of experiments.
So this is not going to be, the main thing is sometimes government, this is government business going on right now.
Of course,
It is.
And now, and the commodities are us.
It's people.
Sorry.
And now when we're the commodity in the sense that, and the commodity will be packaged in the sense that, you said data privacy.
Yeah.
They will say, this is a way to protect your data in one conglomerated place. So we actually now...
in Singapore.
Yeah. And it's now, and they'll say how it's so secure and how it's everything's whatever.
Yeah.
Basically the same way, to counter your argument, they will actually use the same argument on this actual thing. And that's literally what they're saying.
They're dealing with Kenyans. There is a very huge trust deficit between Kenyans and their leaders and their government. Like the WorldCoin story, it was happening at KICC. KICC is a government building. At the other side of KICC is Supreme Court and the judiciary.
Yes.
On this side, it is City Hall. And on this back side, it's Parliament. So it was not happening somewhere in an informal settlement where the chief is not aware. It was right at the CBD, right at the heart of every government agency. And then there were conflicting reports. It seems like the CS of Interior Security had a different narrative. CS of ICT, where that whole thing falls squarely, had a different narrative. And now you hear the president, the executive, was meeting the big founder of that same WorldCoin. So it tells you that whatever the case, even in that WorldCoin story, there is still a trust deficit between what the government is telling people and what the people are saying. So I wonder just how much we can trust them with our data, and if my data is mishandled, where is the recourse? Who will I talk to?
I get what you mean, because even when it comes to even that, because what we're noticing is that through this Maisha card and everything, is this basically even how you brought it out in the aspect of the president went to see the same people.
Altman,
the
owner.
The president went to negotiate the deal.
Yes.
He went to negotiate a deal.
Yes.
And
So
the deal was through, so Maisha cards coming.
Because of time.
No
Let's
problem.
move on because of time. Now, this is the last KCP, ladies and gentlemen. 38 years, it's run its course.
It's done.
Done.
Wow.
You did
This-
KCP?
Yes.
Ah.
This is the last time we have. We'll have next year. We won't have an exam for KCP, and we're talking about Brian, the guy, the fraud lawyer, who was saying, and I like KCP in many reasons, because people like Brian has become great people, and they can con people and they can do their own things. What is your take of our education system?
We are done finally with all this. We're washing things out now finally. But now in the process of washing, what's gonna happen is there's gonna be a little bit of specks of dust in between, because with now the final students, like my little baby brother is actually did his KCPE. I hope you did well. And the main thing, we wish you all the best when the results come out, hopefully I think in December. I just hope that the kids who are actually now in the new system, they are given the necessary knowledge and actually skills for us now to be useful within the society that we are now. And the guys who are doing our KCP right now, for example, even my little baby brother right now, is he also gonna be able to now be handled also equivalently? Because even as he's being, things are being phased out, I hope he's also not seen as a calast, he's just thrown away, because there's some kids who are actually not actually able in the system, because in the system there's some kids who are actually now having to resit exams, of course, next week that is, because they were not integrated within, they were not even recorded, the details were not recorded. So even you as a parent, how are you handling this new system and knowing that the old one that you were involved in is gone?
I don't know why I'm not a fan of this new system. Okay, I know so many reasons. One of them is that you did not train the people that are training these kids. Like, you just came with the teacher who taught me with the basics and everything that they were teaching at that time, the 844. Then you come and now tell them, now you'll be teaching CBC. I remember, since I work with kids a lot, one day I went to a school for the magazine, and then I was talking to the head teacher. Then the head teacher opens up openly and says, some of us did not even know about computers, and now here we are, we're supposed to give them assignments of taking pictures and printing them and sticking them in books. Most of these people who are teaching this system do not even know what they are teaching. And that is why you will have swimming practicals in a very rural area whereby they don't even have a swimming pool, and you did not educate them about inflatable these balloons or even sponsor to get them there for them to learn swimming. And yeah, you are doing a good job teaching CBC. I feel like this is the biggest mistake they did, is that maybe they're planning over the holiday. Like, can you at least train this teacher what they are going to be teaching? Because right now you're saying KCP is over. Okay, I failed. Then my life is done. My life is over. I'm supposed to say that, okay, I failed KCP now, I'm not going to be doing anything because KCP is over and done with. Do they have a system whereby they're going to protect these kids after this? Do they have a system whereby, what are the, and then the things these kids are, okay, first of all, let me not start with CBC. Homework is for me, not my child. I actually don't like that too, because these people, I don't know, whoever introduced it maybe had an idea of what was going to happen, but with the shuffle and the reshuffle, we are focused more on taxes, we are focused more on how hard life is, we are focused more on everything, that we don't actually know what is happening in the education system of the country right now. And it is not going so well. It is actually failing in most ways. The way they're introducing these things, the way we are doing, the fact that parents are doing the homeworks, the education system is really failing. And if there's a way they could just try and maybe educate these teachers, or even try and lighten the burden of the, like, learn what you're introducing. If I sit the Minister of Education right now here, I'm sure he doesn't have a clue on what they were going to do.
Let's close because of time.
Real quick, if I could just say, is that people have, it has been said over and over that education is the greatest equalizer. If nothing else, let every child be given a fair and an equal chance to do education. But one of the things I noticed during Corona, it was when the inequalities between children were exacerbated. Like, you could tell it clearly. Why? Because at one point, there is a child with a laptop in their home and Wi-Fi, so their education is continuing. At the other part, there are kids somewhere, even their mom don't have a smartphone or a laptop, so there was no education ongoing, and they literally lost 2 or is it 1.5 years. What does that mean? That whatever experiment they are doing with our children, if it's an experiment, if nothing else, let education in Kenya be at least an equalizer, so that we don't continually condemn poor children from low-income areas to poverty
Completely.
over and over. Look at the CBC homework. There is print this, do this, do this. You can just tell that this homework could actually fit a child in an urban area where they have access to a photocopier and something like that.
If I may cut you short for a minute,
Yeah.
actually, there's homework of, give your child 100 shillings. Actually, my son was given that homework.
Yeah.
And take them to the shop, to shop. You're telling a person who cannot afford food to give this child 100 shillings.
Yes, you see, so those are like stark lived realities. Education receives the most percentage of budgets in the Kenyan budget. The largest percentage of Kenyan budget goes to education. If that budget is going to education, let those people who are planning and doing the policy know that they can do trial and error with whatever they want, but here they are doing trial and error with the lives of our children. And secondly, it seems like most of them, their children are not consumers of this education, because there are so many moving parts. The other day I saw in the papers that the grade 7 students had a wasted year. Why? Because of the poor retooling and the reskilling of the teachers. But lastly, if we are moving into the future with the advancement of technology, new media and what have you, let whatever will come after this be fit for purpose, so that our children can not only be competitive in the Kenyan market, but also in the global market. But whatever the case, do not disadvantage children from low-income areas when you are doing this experiment and this trial and error.
So I think we've really captured it well. I wouldn't even go deeper into it, and I think we'll have a better, maybe a deeper discussion next week when you come back together. What I know is that the education system needs a refocus and a rehaul. We don't need to do total overhaul, because one, if you look at the university finding model has changed. They're telling you now, going forward, that kids, if you will not choose the courses in school the way they will be choosing. You'll wait after you get your grade to know the amount of money you can afford to pay school fees. That means if you come from a poor home,
You can't be a doctor.
you cannot be a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wewe utakuwa carpenter.
Because
By force.
even a textbook
Because
ya
you
daktari ni
see,
expensive sana.
Wezi, how will you raise 500,000 and your mother is a hooker?
It's a lot of money.
So the question is, we'll have to discuss these things. We know that our education system, we have a mess in that sector, and the government has not planned properly. This is the last KCP. They didn't put all the kids on NEMIS. They realized, oh, these kids cannot repeat classes. They can't go to the new system. Now, we have to sit the guys who are unregistered have to sit next week. We are operating as if we are going to cook in the evening, yet this is a system. This year, 1.4 million people have sat KCPE. If you look at the numbers, we know the progression of people who sit KCPE, the increment is a certain amount of number. Now it is too big, and we do what we call 100% transition. If you go to these top schools, people have turned dormitories into classes. They are no longer, people don't sleep in double-decker, it's triple-deckers. The congestion in schools is a mess. And by the way, that CBC, have you seen that certificate, the way it reads? Have you seen a CBC certificate?
No, how does it look like?
If you fail, there's nothing like someone has failed. It's approaching
Yeah, it's approaching expectations.
expectation. The other one is what?
Meeting
Meeting expectation. And the top one is what?
Exceeding expectations.
So do you know how someone has scored?
No.
So if you are exceeding expectation, meeting expectation, or approaching,
You're almost there.
I tell you, it's crazy. We will come back to that next week, I tell you.
But at least we kept it real.
Yes.
So real. So real.
Hey, and that's crazy. That's what CBC is doing nowadays.
Yeah. And even when we were saying ABCD, then they say a book.
A book.
So you also struggle with the homework because they are saying then you say A, B, book.
I think we ended there, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. It has been real.
Yeah.
We've kept it real.
Yes.
Simon, close it for us, man.
We'll see you guys next week. Make sure you keep it interactive. Leave your comments underneath there. Even text us here on KTN. Next week on Let's Be Real, I'll see you there.